Hey everyone, welcome back to Larry the Money Guy. And today we have a specific episode about the TSP plans for federal employees. But let's bring in the man, the expert, the certified financial planner and specialist in helping federal employees plan for retirement. Larry, thanks for joining us. I get to actually join you today, but hey, we're flip flopping and merging words together at the same time. Hey, it's good to have you. And we're going to jump in here in just a moment. But you just told me about some recent changes, or are they upcoming changes in the TSP program? And so, can you just give me a quick background and why should federal employees care?
Sure. What we wanted to talk about today, big changes coming to the TSP plans. So this is something that is going to impact everybody. We've got more money now with catch-up contributions into the plan. We've got more flexibility with conversions happening inside of your TSP plan. So there's lots of things, new things with the Thrift Savings Plan. So federal employees, I would say you need to know about these things. That's why we're talking about them today. It's such a hot topic. We are talking about them today because they're either going to potentially cost you more money in taxes, or you can get on top of it and take appropriate steps. So
why, Larry, why would it cost us more money for a federal employee? I spent 15 years in the military. Why is it potentially, what's changed that could cost me more in taxes down the road? Or is it that there was a rule change that's going to allow me to save taxes because I have a new option?
So yes, on all fronts. So the first thing is that starting next year, so starting in 2026, if you make over $145,000 a year as a federal employee salary, your new catch-up contributions, if you're trying to maximum fund your thrift savings plan, which federal employees, you guys are great at doing this. I meet so many of you who are taking full advantage of this. If you're maxing out your TSP contributions, if you're over 50 and you're doing catch-up contributions and you're making over $145,000 a year, starting next year, those contributions are going to mandatory go into the Roth. So what that means is that starting next year, if you've been doing this, your paycheck, you're going to pay more money in taxes. So your paycheck is going down starting next year because you're not going to get a deduction for the catch-up contributions. Instead, it's going in Roth.
Okay, so give an explanation for Roth so that people understand, for those who maybe don't quite understand. And why are they forcing part of the contributions into a segment in Roth?
So I'm not sure exactly why they decided to force contributions. In most private 401k plans out there, this is an option. You can choose to do it. So I'm not sure why the government chose to force these contributions to go into Roth. But if you back up from a high level, if you're a federal employee and maybe you've been working for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years in the government, you've been contributing to your thrift savings plan. And every dollar that you put into your thrift savings plan is one less dollar that you pay taxes on today when you go to file taxes today. By putting money in that, you don't pay taxes on those dollars today. In the future, when you retire at 57, 62, 60, whenever you choose to retire, and you go to pull money out of your thrift savings plan, the money that you put in, as well as all of the growth inside of there, is now taxable to you as income. So potentially it's causing more of your Social Security to be taxed. It could impact Medicare premiums. It could cause, be subject to higher tax rates 10 years, 20 years down the road in the future. So what we want to look at is, where's our tax bracket today? And what are we deferring taxes on if we go into traditional TSP? Or we put money in on the Roth side of things. The money goes in on the Roth. We don't get a tax deduction this year, but instead that Roth balance grows non-taxable, tax-free growth. So down the road.
what are the proportions? Is it a mandatory requirement that they contribute to the Roth? And if so, what's the proportion? And in bottom line, how's it? It feels a little bit like a pay cut. Now it's not, because you're simply paying taxes now at lower rates than deferring it into the future. It is a smart move, but it's going to feel like a pay cut. Take
Yeah.
home pay is going to be affected. So can you help me understand what the minimum requirements are and what that feeling of a pay cut, but really it's just paying taxes in advance in order to save from larger taxes later? What are the minimums, and how much may it affect my take home pay?
So it all depends on which income tax bracket that you're in. But the reason why it feels like you're taking a pay cut is because the government is going to take out more money in taxes from your paycheck every 2 weeks, because they're not giving you a deduction against your income for the money that you're putting in there. To say that you're in the 20% tax bracket, right? If you back it up to a really high level, if you make $100,000 and you contribute $20,000 to your thrift savings plan, number one, congratulations, you're doing great. Number two, right, you're only going to be taxed on $80,000 of income this year because you took a deduction for $20,000. Now, if you turn and you put that $20,000 to go into the Roth side of TSP, now you're going to pay taxes on all $100,000 this year. But in the future, that $20,000 that you put into the Roth TSP is now growing tax-free. So a lot of reasons. Maybe you're making less money today than you're going to have in retirement. Maybe you've got some life changes. Maybe we think that taxes are going to go up in the future. Social Security gets taxed based on other things. But having a source of non-taxable growing money is good. Where the federal government and where the TSP change came is now, if you're making those catch-up contributions. So maybe I should back up and talk about the contribution limits for just a minute, right? We want to make sure the contribution limit, if you're under 50, is $23,500 for this year, 2025. If you're between the ages of 50 and 59, you can put an additional $7,500 in there for a total of $31,000.
And that is part of the new tax law change?
Yep. So new tax law change. And then they added the age 60 to 63, you get what they call the super catch up, which sounds super. So now they can put, for those 3 years, they can put 11,250 in. So between 60 and 63, your total is 34,750. So that's how much money at a maximum you can put into TSP. You get to choose largely whether that money goes in on a pre-tax or an after-tax basis. The change that's coming is if your income is over $145,000 a year, anything above the $23,500 limit in the catch-up contributions that you're doing, that's going to mandatory go into Roth. So if you're maxing out those TSP contributions and you're in your 50s, just know that you're going to have money going into the non-taxable thing, which I like. I'm a big fan of Roth and tax-free growth money because I think taxes are only likely to go up in this country, but we need to plan for it.
Yeah, I'm just curious, does this affect just federal employees, or have they increased the ability to contribute more, or the bracket, the limits? Did the limits change for everyone or just for federal employees?
The limits change for everyone. So the 23,500 for under 50, 31,000 for 50 to 59, and then this super catch-up contribution from 60 to 63, totaling up to 34,750. That's for everybody, whether they're in a 401k, 403b, TSP, whatever your retirement plan of choice is. However, what did change was that the TSP changed the rules and said, if you're making over 145, that's going to be forced into the Roth side of things.
Okay. Which isn't a bad idea. We've always talked about diversifying a portfolio. So even on the tax side, it seems like diversifying your tax burden, not pushing all of it into the future, especially with the national debt and everything that's going on right now. They don't get the national debt under control. They're going to have to raise taxes at some point in time. So even if I know from history, if you took a 401k and deferred everything in the 1970s when the top bracket was 70% for a decade, and then you retired in the 90s, then what they were telling us about 401ks, TSPs, any tax deferred account made sense, because not only did our income was slightly smaller, but we were in much lower tax brackets. We're kind of in an opposite environment right now, where we're at some of the lowest tax brackets in history. So it does make sense. What is it that you would tell people that they should be particularly careful about doing when they're looking at how much do I diversify and they're trying to determine that number? Can you just walk someone through what they need to be aware of and pay attention to when they just arbitrarily pick how much they're going to go with Roth and how much they're going to put it in the regular account?
Yeah. And Rob, you hit the nail on the head, right? Today, with the extension of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, we're in historically low tax rates. So whether you're in the 12, 22, 24% tax bracket, maybe higher, but those historically are very, very low rates. So what you want to avoid doing is saying, hey, I'm going to defer paying taxes on $10,000 of money today that I would otherwise have paid. Today, you'd pay, let's say, 22% on it. And in the future, when you retire, what if you're in a 25% bracket? So now that the $10,000, you're gonna defer it. So you're gonna save $10,000. You're gonna save 22% taxes today, and in the future you're gonna pay 25 or 28 or wherever the tax brackets go. Yeah, Rob, like you said, I just looked yesterday morning, right? We're $37.5 trillion or so in debt. So I think taxes have to go up. And I think for years, right? Like Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman and all the big talking head experts, as they would so profess to themselves, have told us defer taxes, because today, while you're working, you're going to be in a higher tax bracket than when you retire. And a lot of times, I think there's but wait, there's more sort of calculation to that, right? Because, and we talk about this a lot, right? Once you get into retirement, your Social Security is taxed based on what other income that you have. Your Medicare premiums, if you're signing up for Medicare Part B, right? Your Medicare premiums are based on how much other income that you have. So sometimes it's not just about, well, what is my tax rate today? What's my tax rate in the future? And what if taxes go up? But if we start looking at this and say, well, wait a minute, now if we have to pull a required distribution, or if we have to pull money out of a TSP, now it's pushing up how much of our Social Security gets taxed. Now it's pushing up our Medicare premiums. And so the biggest thing, and people probably get sick of saying this, you need to have a plan, right? Whether you're 25 or 45 or 55 years old, or whether you're 6 months from retirement, you should talk to somebody and look at, like, what is the best situation today for my family based on the next 20 or 30 years, not just how do I save as much money in taxes right now, today, this year, because maybe you're saving money on taxes, but you would have paid them at a much lower rate than what you will in the future.
Yeah, and I just heard a story the other day interviewing another advisor where a couple retired and they both were double career federal employees, and the wife had medical emergency. He had to take money out of the TSP. It was taxable. He didn't realize how significantly taxable it was. When you have an emergency, you just do what you need to do, right? Come tax season, a huge tax bill comes. So what does he do? Oh, just grab it from the TSP. Then he doesn't realize that he's going to owe tax on that money too. And then it just goes on and on and on like a snowball. So I can see the value of making sure you do have some sort of tax-free asset that you can pull from under certain circumstances. It gives you the ability to control how much you're going to have to pay in taxes when you retire.
Right. You get to control your bracket. And maybe that's, a good a good thing. The last big change that's coming right next year, we can do in the TSP. You can do in-plan Roth conversions. We as financial advisors have been hoping, wishing, praying that this was going to come for years, because, right, if you're a federal employee, prior to the age of 59 and a half, if you haven't separated from service, there was really no way for you to control your tax bracket by doing Roth conversions. So now what they're coming out with, excuse me, is inside of the plan, you could choose to convert existing deferred money, convert it to Roth. That's a big, powerful thing, but it comes with a big gotcha. Be very, very, very careful, right? If you go in there and you move $100,000 to Roth, number one, you're going to increase your taxable income this year by $100,000. Number two, TSP does not allow you to pay the taxes from that conversion. So if that $100,000 that you convert is going to generate $20,000 in taxes for you this year, you have to get that $20,000 from somewhere else. So it's really good that we have it. However, and I just saw the latest TSP bulletin goes, make sure that you're working with a financial advisor or qualified tax advisor to explore the impact of this sort of thing. And I hope, it's my hope that anybody listening to this, if you're seeing this either live today or whether you're seeing it in the future, right? Don't just go into your TSP and go, oh yeah, like let's move $250,000 to Roth, and now they're gonna have a tax lien.
well, here's my takeaway. I'm trying to listen between the lines, right? I like that you said control your tax brackets. You can do that both before and after retirement if this is done correctly, if you're working with a tax professional. But if you don't have a plan, you're not controlling anything. You're just randomly allowing yourself to be in any random tax bracket on either side of retirement. But the gotcha, I hope people walk away from today's video is you're not going to be able to pay the tax from the TSP after in the conversion. If you convert 50 grand, you can't take some of that to pay the taxes. You're right. You're going to be out of pocket for it, right?
Right.
So you're going to have some liquid cash somewhere to pay that bill come tax season.
Right. And for a lot of people, right, if you're on the outside, if you've got a Schwab or a Vanguard IRA and Roth IRA account, you can move money from IRA to Roth IRA, and you can choose to have taxes withheld from the conversion. In the TSP, that is not going to be an option. So similar to a lot of things from the TSP, they just came out with the bulletin the other day, and they've basically said, hey, there's going to be a process, there's going to be a form that you have to submit to do this, but we don't have any specifics yet on exactly how that's going to get done.
But I'm sure that you will make it available, and of course, people can reach out to you and try and figure those numbers out. Again, the takeaway from today: control your tax brackets, work with a professional, and nothing personal. Larry's one of my favorite advisors, but we'd rather you find any advisor than do this without any help, because giving you more control of your investments and taxes sometimes can be even more dangerous than just letting the company do it automatically. So it's easy to make a big mistake that you're going to regret and you can't roll back.
Correct. Yes. So, and that's a good thing to note too. Once you do a Roth conversion, you cannot undo that. That's not a, oops, I did too much and like back it out. They don't allow that.
Well, I love it. I think this is great. I think the government may have done this because they can start collecting tax sooner because they're allowing you to do these catch-ups and at earlier ages and within the federal program. So I think this may be a test case that they may in the future roll out broader. But I love that it gives people more control, but with more control comes more responsibility. Is there anything you want to say as we wrap up today's interview?
No, I think that was a very well said, right? Giving people more control always isn't the necessarily best option. But when you look at like, why would the government do this? Or why would the government want to force you to put money into the Roth? is remember, there's kind of a political tilt in this country to say, we'll tax the wealthy. Okay, well, the government is doing it from the, okay, well, if you're making more than $145,000, they're still going to let you put money into retirement accounts, but they're going to force it to go into Roth, which isn't all bad. However, they're still going to collect their tax dollars from it this year. So, just pay attention, make sure, exciting changes are coming. We're looking forward to it over here, being able to help a lot more people that are kind of mid-career in their 50s. And we want to do Roth conversions, but we can't. So now we will be able to, but yeah, certainly fun times working with TSP and federal employees here.
And just so people know, Larry is, and I work with thousands of advisors. Larry is one of the preeminent experts in this field of federal employee planning for retirement. So where can people get a hold of you if they'd like to get information or your advice on what they can be doing with their TSP?
Sure. If you want to get a hold of us, as always, right, you are here watching the live stream of our YouTube channel. So feel free to reach out to us, copperwoodfinancial.com, send us a message, send us an email. Happy to chat. We also, if you want to jump on, we do full educational webinars on a pretty regular basis. Every 2 to 3 weeks, we'll pick a topic and we'll dive into it. Masterclass for 45 minutes with Q&A for federal employees. So make sure that you can, subscribe to our channel, make sure that you're following along. We'll make sure that you get on our emails to get into some of these deep dive masterclasses.
And you can email Larry at copperwoodfinancial.com, right?
Yeah, Larry at copperwoodfinancial.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Again, if you have any questions at all, you can get a free consultation with Larry anytime. You reach out to him through email or through the website, and he'd be happy to help point you in the right direction. And then you also can be added to his quarterly list that gets invites to a very comprehensive workshop that they do once a quarter for federal employees. It's a great class. If you haven't attended, I encourage you to do that, especially because he keeps updating people with all of the changes and all of the potential solutions.
It's good job security for us.
That is true. Well, thank you all for joining us. Join us this time next week. We look forward to seeing you then.